Welcome to Engaging Cities Fireside Chats. On each episode of the show, I talk to leaders who are paving the way in civic engagement in order to inspire listeners and share strategies that you can implement in your own community. This podcast is proudly supported by our sponsor, Conveo, the engagement platform for plans and policies. Check them out at konveo.com. I'm your host, Kelly Hickler, the Community Manager with Engaging Cities, as well as the founder of Cinovation Studio, which is dedicated to innovative civic education and engagement. Happy December, everyone. We made it. Okay, we almost made it to the end of the year. Many of you are hopefully winding down, although I know some of you are probably trying to squeeze out some last-minute deadlines, and I have a few of those as well, so I feel you. Today is the last episode of the Fireside Chats podcast this year. Later this month, I'll be putting out a highlight reel of all our episodes from 2024, so stay tuned for that. Today, I'm talking with Deb Brown, who is the co-founder of Save Your Town. Okay, that sounded a little bit like the beginning of a Dr. Seuss book. Deb does actually have a book called Save Your Small Town. It's meant for anyone who lives in a small town who wants to implement change. Whether you are a city staff person, elected official, small business owner, a student, retired, really any community member, Deb shares real stories and practical steps you can take to drive positive change and create the type of community you want to live in. All right, let's hear from Deb. So, hi, Deb. Thanks for joining us on our Fireside Chats podcast today. We both have our holiday backgrounds, but this is really my living room. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, it's lovely. Glad you have your tree up already. It is after Halloween, so you can do that.
Yeah, so we're recording in the beginning of November, but this episode's going to air in December, so we're ready. We want to be festive. But so Deb, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into the line of work that you do?
I am a small town enthusiast. For the last 20 years or so, I have been working in rural communities and generally under 10,000 people. That's a kind of a sweet spot for the work that we do. I have a Chamber of Commerce background, a tourism background. So it was a great fit to go into business. What I found out, I was working at a chamber and I had to take my personal days if I were to go speak in another community, and I was getting asked to do that at local communities, and I was out of time by February. It's like, oh, I got to make a decision here. Either I jump or I don't. And that was, it'll be 10 years in April. But I did make the decision and have not regretted a bit of it. I have an associate, Becky McCray, that I work with. She's in Oklahoma. I'm actually in Mississippi. We have a company called Town. It's also our website, saveyour.town. There's no .com in there. You can tell I've said that a time or two, right?
Yeah, I was like, what's a saveyour.town? Oh, that's the website. Okay.
That's the website and our company name too, because why not? It helps people remember what we do and what they're going to do, because it's not about us coming in to save your town. It's about you saving your town. We teach people practical steps to a brighter future. We also show people how to use the idea-friendly method to get started right away, accomplishing small steps on the way to your big idea. I could talk forever about that. The latest thing that I've done, we crow just a little bit. I wrote a book, which we probably can't see with my
Yeah,
background.
maybe you have to find. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
We'll hold it just like, mm, there we go.
Perfect.
It is from possibilities to reality, save your small town. And there's a little more to the title with these uniquely doable ideas, projects, and success stories. Because essentially, this book is about the different communities that we've worked in or talked to and the things they're doing to save their communities. Uh, because if you want to save your town, you can. You don't have to wait on somebody else to do it for you. Don't wait for the city to do it. That's not their job. Their job is to run the city, right? Um, as a member of the community, you really are the city. So we work with anyone from the economic development team to the historical society to a lady in Ohio. What was the name of the town? In any case, she was fabulous and wanted to bring me in to talk about saving a park in the community. And so I went and we figured out how to do it. And she had the wherewithal to do it. So that made it easier as well.
Oh, that is so awesome. I love to hear about this kind of work, especially since my background is in city planning. And most of what I do, as implied in the title, is planning. And I write a lot of planning documents. So I love to hear about projects actually getting implemented. And I love that it is a resident initiated process. You're not waiting for the city.
Yes, and
Unit.
having said that, sometimes the cities do bring us in, absolutely. I was in Akron, Iowa, not Ohio, Iowa. It's a small town, I think it's under 2,000 people, and the mayor actually personally brought me there for an on-site visit. Boy, did we have a good time. It was a group of gentlemen, older fellows. They were, retired farmers, and, uh, retired farmers move into town. They don't s A lot of them do, and they brought with them their woodworking equipment, and their wives insisted they get that out of the garages and somewhere else because they have winter there. They wanted someplace to park their car. So these fellows got together. They were having coffee every morning in an empty building anyway, in an old hospital, and they found out the basement of that building was dry. So they all brought in their woodworking equipment and formed the Old Geezers Club. The
I love it.
Old Geezers Club. Now, the purpose of that was to teach people that wanted to know how to make a table. So, say I want to make my own table, and they would walk me through the process. Well, you go get this wood from the lumber yard, right? Let's draw up a plan. Here's how you build it, and literally show you how to use the equipment before you go invest a ton of money in it.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, yeah, and they work with the shop class, so the kids had a place to go and build projects they were working on under the safe instruction of these gentlemen that really knew the tools. So, what a great use of the equipment, of working in the community. That building now has other small businesses that are expanding throughout it. There's a massage therapist, there's an essential oils business in there. I believe there's a woman that does some travel planning. It's just growing naturally as entrepreneurs who've been working out of their home are looking for a smaller space to start their business in a brick and mortar building.
Wonderful. I'm, just glad to hear that there's still schools that have shop class.
So I'm from Iowa, and it's not that unusual that we're in the
Okay, okay,
Midwest,
yeah.
okay? And there's a lot of women in the shop classes too, so that's
Yeah,
been a huge
wow.
difference. Plus, you have your FFA, your future farmers that need to know how to use the tools that you learn how to
Right.
use in shop
Okay,
as well.
cool. Um, so do you have maybe a specific project example that you could talk about, that you could walk us through your process, your save your town process using a specific project that you've worked on?
Absolutely. So it's the idea friendly method. Squiggle in my chair and get comfortable. Becky McCray created the idea friendly method because she'd been working in communities and saw how building connections and talking to people and taking your ideas. How can we work that into a process that works? So I'll explain the method and then I'll share a story about it.
Okay.
You begin with your big idea. What is it that you want for your community? What do you want? And don't hesitate to make it big. Maybe you want a splash pad. Maybe you want to bring live music to your town because that's something that's missing in your community, in your small town. So you take that idea and then you start talking about it with your friends. And you call up your neighbor and say, hey, come on over Saturday afternoon. I'm going to bake some stuff. Come have a bite to eat with me. And I have this idea I want to talk to you about. And you just begin the conversations of talking with people like yourself that are interested in your idea. How could we make this happen? How would that work? And that's the gather your crowd portion of the idea friendly method. Now, your crowd doesn't know everything. They don't know about zoning restrictions. They don't know about use of public streets. If they're, can we close down the street? They don't know about musical equipment. So you want to build your connections because there are people that do know that. So you do a lot of who do you know that could do this? Or who do you know that might know about that? That you're building connections. And it's also how you start with the small steps. So picking up the phone and calling the city manager, because you can do that in a small town. And you can say, I need to talk to somebody about closing the street down. Who would that be? Can you come over and have cake? Right? And the city manager's like, I'm on my way. Let's have some cake. Right? So you start to build that powerful network. So you have your crowd, you have your connections, and generally, you know these people or know of these people. And then you begin to take the small steps, which leads to accomplishing your big idea or not accomplishing it. Failure's not a bad thing. When you take small steps, it's a test, it's a trial to see if it works. Not such a big deal when it doesn't work. It's okay because you're just
Hmm.
trying it out, right?
Okay.
So the difference, a tale of two concerts is what we talk about it. Huge agricultural concern, um, wanted to have a big event in their community. So out at their farm, they decided to bring in live music and pretty well known music. They were well known in the area, had been on TV, kind of well known.
Okay.
Um,
Do you know what they're called?
no, I do not. And if I
Okay.
did, I wouldn't tell you because we didn't have permission to share the name of the band.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Okay.
oh, I'll add their music
Um,
to the episode.
yeah. And I'm sure it was good, Check with me later. I'll ask and see if I could share it with you. Anyway, um, so they invited this band, their little team that created all of this. They made up the flyers themselves, the agricultural concern. They had staff that set up everything. They had staff that did this, did that. You can see it. It was a day of fun, and they had somebody on their staff that made it all happen. And then nobody came. A few people came, but it was
Oh,
a huge concert, and just a few people came. And one person from that group made the comment that, and you complain, we don't do anything around here. Yet when we do, you don't show up. That's a common complaint in rural communities. But let me share by way of story the difference in how to make that work for real. When I was a chamber director, a young man named Michael, I came into my office and said, Deb, we need to have live music. And I agreed with him. I said, you're right. We do. What are you going to do about it? And he's like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? I'm like, well, you're the one that wants it. What are you going to do about it? He's like, can I do anything? I'm like, of course you can. What do you want? So we talked about it a little bit. He was already in a band. I said, go talk to your boys, find out what it is you guys want, and then let's talk a little bit more. Which he did. He went back to him and said, what should we do? And they were all like, you mean we can do it? Yeah, the chamber said we could. They needed permission to do something they really didn't need permission for.
okay.
Okay. Where we came in and helped was, why don't you make some flyers and put them up here? We can get you on the radio. let's do that. We were brought in just to help them market a little bit. And they figured it out. They had an open mic night in a location downtown in one of the empty lots. Um, they told everybody they knew. They involved a lot of different people because they made it open mic. So they had to ask people to come and perform.
Mhm.
And once you ask others to be part of something, well, now it's starting to get fun because I want my friends. I'm going to bring my friends with me to see what's going on. It's live concert. And you know what? I'm going to be up on stage, right? It's going to be really awesome. And that's exactly what it was. It was really awesome. People showed up with their lawn chairs, sat in the park, and listened to the open mic that ranged from poetry to content, old guy doing country western music to metal. And Mike's band
Oh,
is a
really?
metal band.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was a little concerned, but not a whole lot because he's a local kid, right? And everybody just had a great time. Another fellow showed up with lights. He wasn't invited. He just showed up because he had heard this thing was going on and he could probably bring his lights so that they could keep playing another hour in the dark. That's the second concert. And what came out of that, they hosted 3 more concerts throughout that summer. And one was a Beatles cover band, and they had to raise $500 to bring them in. Well, who doesn't love the Beatles? And they went to locals to talk about, do you have $1? We're trying to raise 500. I mean, it was just so much fun because the entire community was involved. They're
Okay.
taking the small steps along the way to make it happen. So you can
Okay.
see the difference from that huge agricultural concern
Yes.
um, that did it all themselves. And the only choice you had was go or not go
Mhm.
versus a bunch of my friends put this thing together. I want to go see what they're doing kind of
Mhm.
concert. So
Yes.
that's a good example of using the idea friendly method.
Oh, I love that story. That's such a good story. Is that in your book?
It is. And it's a true story too.
Okay, so since we don't have the rights of the other band, maybe we could use Michael's band. We'll put his metal music in
His
the
metal band.
background.
I wonder if they even still have it. That'll be interesting. I'll reach out to him because I stay in touch with everybody. Thank God for the internet, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Is there another part of your process that you'd like to talk us through?
So we talked a little bit about permissions,
Mhm.
and we talked a little bit about not expecting the city to do everything. For me, the part that I love the most when I go to a community and work with them is asking them, what is it that you want to do? Sometimes I'll get somebody that says, I want it like it was in 1955. And I'm okay with that answer because I have a response to it, which is we can't go back to 1955. It's physically impossible. But tell me what about that did you like? And learn to dig and get those answers. And it's often people were neighborly. Um, we had lots of stores in town where we could shop. I
Mm.
mean, you know what the answers are going to be, or
Mhm.
you anticipate them, but they'll tell you if you're kind, always be kind and listen really well.
Mhm.
Don't listen to respond, listen to hear.
Hmm.
And that's all part of gathering your crowd.
Okay. Now, do how do you typically get involved in a project? Is there kind of a typical process that happens? That someone reaches out to you? It sounds
Yes.
like it's not typically the city that reaches out to you. Is that right?
That is right. A couple of different ways. For example, next week I'm going to talk to the Illinois Main Street Conference, and I'm talking about the idea friendly method. And everyone in the room, who are Main Street directors primarily, will be creating their own project. We're going to ask, what is your big idea? And they'll write it down. We're going to say, who's your crowd after they've heard the stories and how to do this. So when they leave, they have a when they pick up their phone, they have a project they can start on. They can text somebody right away. They don't have to wait 3 days till after the conference and it's kind of worn off.
Okay.
I will encourage people to get started right away. So that's one way, by speaking at different events. And with having the book come out, it's getting me in front of more people. In fact, the first 100 people at that conference will get a copy of the book, which is exciting. I'm so
Oh,
thrilled to be doing that. Yes.
yes. Mhm.
We have a newsletter. It's at savior.town/sign up, all one word. And it comes out weekly. And it's about the various challenges in rural communities and ways to address those challenges. It's simple stories of what people are doing. It's ideas. It's a conversation. And the newsletter is meant to be shared. It's meant for the city manager to read it and share it with his staff. It is meant for the chamber director to read it and share it with all her members. It's meant for the ladies that cook the church meals at noontime, and it's Thanksgiving time. So there's going to be a lot of that going around, to print them off and share with people, because these are ideas that you can take and put into place yourself. Generally, they are.
Yeah.
And uh, we get a lot of response from people that receive our newsletter. Hey, can you come talk to our community? Can you come work with us? And if you explore Savior.town, there's a lot of information on the different things we do in communities and how we can work with you.
Okay. What would you say is the role that a city, or well, a town, the official town government um could or should play in the process?
So Becky had this idea that I just absolutely love. Traditionally, city councils are asked for money. People come with ideas and they want money to make it happen. Well, what if instead they were asked to listen to ideas and share some of their resources? So somebody could come in and say, I want to start my own kettle corn business, but I need to be able to build a building to sell kettle corn out of on the empty lot. And so the city, because generally people that work for the city have more access to resources, and the planner could be someone that could talk to them about how to go about doing that. Does it fit in your zone and ordinances? They may tell you to talk to the SBA to get some funding for it. They may say, go to the lumber yard and see if they have any throwaway wood that you could use to build it. So they become the virtual, what is the word? Uh, um, Virtual access to accomplishing your ideas. It's
Mhm.
not about always about asking for money. And then that person can come back 6 months later and report in and say, hey guys, I did this, this, and this, and this. And we've opened our shop and we're now in a position to go into a brick and mortar business because we've figured out how to try it out with pop-ups and whatnot.
Mhm.
So now we're going to need a building. It's at this point the city council can listen and say, oh, we have an entrepreneur that's tried their idea out, has found out what works and what doesn't work. Let's help get them into a building. What can we do now to help them? And it may be tax incentives or a cut back on some restrictions that they have to report on.
Mhm.
There are lots of ways that they can work with a possible new business or entrepreneur. So that's
Okay.
one way that
Oh,
I love to talk about, because I know how hard it is being an employee of a nonprofit or a city, and you're always asked for money, always. You got to find different ways to address these challenges and make things happen.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of other tools in the toolbox that they can do to help. I've worked for a
Mhm.
few different cities, and yeah, that's absolutely true. There's, maybe they can offer some sort of streamlined permitting process or reduce fees for permits or something.
I would like to see all the permitting in one location. I would like to see there's a town in Iowa that the mayor said, I'm trying to remember the town. It's in the book though. The mayor said, if we want stores to stay open late, we have to too. So their Thursdays, they're open until 8 o'clock at night. So you can go in and get whatever it is you might need from the city, pay whatever bill you might need, so you don't have to take off work to do that. So
Hmm.
those are things that cities can do. And
Yeah.
support the ideas and encourage people to try them out. By all means, talk
Yeah.
about them, be happy.
Have you found that most town officials and staff people are supportive and maybe perhaps even excited about these efforts once they find out about them? Are they happy
The
to help?
majority are. They're a little leery because it's their job to be leery. Um, but generally, most people are excited about it. I'm like, oh, you mean we could do this? Well, what about this idea? The conversations then begin amongst themselves on what we can and can't do and how we can support or not support.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, there's a bad apple in the group, but you just ignore them anyway.
Find a workaround.
Indeed.
Okay. So maybe that's a good segue to our next question about challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges that you come across when trying to implement your work?
So one thing I can tell you, we do a biannual survey of world challenges at Town, and it is used by people all over the world, actually, because it tells us, people tell us what their challenges are, and they're very similar. I mean, housing, childcare, were a couple of the leaders. Young people are leaving. Those are in the top three. Um, but what that does for us when we go to a community, we know that we're going to hear that housing is a problem, or we may hear that childcare is. How can we help them? What ideas do we have to share with them? And we get a lot of ideas by listening to other communities, by reaching out and finding out what other communities are doing to resolve their challenges.
Okay. So yeah, kind of crowd sourcing a bit.
Kind of, and then sharing. It's in the
Mhm.
communication. That's what's missing in a lot of communities.
Mm.
Your city officials, may be doing, or county even officials may be doing wonderful work, but they don't tell people the work they're doing. They're
Oh,
not sharing what's happening. So you have a community that thinks they're not really doing anything. You have to toot your own horn once in a while. You have
yeah.
to let people know what you're doing. It
Yeah,
helps get rid of a lot of negativity.
I wonder if it's just a matter of lack of staff time or resources to do that work, or what do you think it is?
You do understand I'm gonna say that's crazy. I'll give you an example. Lander County in Nevada, um, it's a community that's run by the county. I think there's 12,000 people in the entire county. Um, what's having that problem, and still does a little bit, but it's getting better because the county officials decided, well, let's start a newsletter because we do have things to tell and we have people to recognize for good work. And that's making a big difference because they're putting their stories in there. Did you see the flower pots that are being painted, from those little stories to the big stories about a new business coming into town? And they, of course, it's an online newsletter, it's an e-newsletter, but they also print it out to go out to 5 or 6 places around town where there are still some people that don't get online. That'll change in 10 years, but for now, they have figured out how to reach those folks too.
Hmm. Okay, so if they can do it, anyone can do it.
If you think about what they're doing, somebody is building their website, working on they have to update that thing with all the different permits and events and activities. So creating a newsletter isn't that big of a deal.
Mhm.
You just create it and send it out once a month or once a week or whatever your community decides they want it.
Yeah, and I would say it doesn't have to be perfect.
No, no,
Yeah.
it just has to be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you have any specific metrics that you use to measure the success of a project, or is it less official?
Um, So do I have something that measures the KPI and I can plug some numbers and things in it? No, no, because we work in small towns. And some of the ways that we measure it is by the continued engagement around a project. So if you do something one time and you don't continue to keep trying to do it, make it better, change it, invite more people, it kind of dies on the vine. But if you continue to do it, then you hear more about it in the community. People are talking about it. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it comes back to listening. You're never going to have 100% involvement. At least I've never seen that. Should never say never. Um, but you do have people talking about things. And it's social media, for all its foibles, people are out there talking. And if you're
Yeah.
good, you can steer the conversation. Start
Yes.
asking questions that are like, what's going on over on 4th Street? Is the city working on something? That's a positive kind of question.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, how's the city spending their money now? Looks like they're digging the street up again.
Yeah.
That's not positive. Okay. So, there are people in your community that would love to be more involved in some sort of small way. They just don't know how to do it. Becky and I have a friend, Miss Daisy, who's out of Springfield, Missouri. She's an older woman with rheumatoid arthritis and can't really get around anymore. She is our biggest cheerleader. She shares our stories, stories of other people in our industry, stories of people around Springfield, of what people are doing. She's fabulous on the internet. We love her dearly because she's built her outreach. She's genuinely curious and loves to talk about what other people are doing. There's somebody in your town just like that.
Oh,
Promise, there is.
every town has a Miss Daisy.
Yeah, you just have to go find them. They're out there.
Yeah, and what I like about that is you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have any particular degree or education or training or expertise to get involved and make a huge difference in your community. You just have to have the passion.
That's right. I know that traditionally economic developers used to chase smokestacks, looking for that next big savior company. They're getting a little bit better about assisting the companies that are already in your community. And now they're starting to look for those entrepreneurs, those startups. Um, who's doing what in the community. And the only way to know that is you have to be on the ground. You have to be talking to people. You have to follow the social media. You have to go to the Rotary meetings and you have to have coffee at the coffee shop. Look at where you are and what you're hearing. Um, if you're an official, you're hearing 10%
Mm.
and maybe another 20% of complaints. But that leaves 70% you're not hearing about because you're not out and about in the community. My friend John is city mayor, and he's just a fabulous man. He doesn't wait for things to happen, he makes them happen. One of our incubator projects, the floor had a hole in it and it needed to be fixed, and the owners were out of town. And John said, I need 3 or 4 people and I can do it on Sunday. I'm like, let me help you. So I threw it out there on Facebook. Hey, we need 3 or 4 people to come fix this floor. And 3 or 4 people showed up and we fixed the floor on a Sunday afternoon. We just did it. You do know what that process could have looked like if we went official means, right? So think about the things you're doing. Is there a fine? Maybe, but look at the fines. A lot of these things were written in the 40s and 50s, and it was a $20 fine. Pay the fine and do it anyway.
I love it. Pay the fine and do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
Uh,
do anything illegal, of course, but fix the floors and clean the windows. Get your friends together and form a group of ninjas. You know what ninjas are? They just go do stuff. And they kind of do it stealth, right? Like
yeah.
early in the morning or late at night when people can't see what they're doing. And it's things like washing the windows of the empty buildings. And I'll tell you why that matters, because it makes the building look totally different. Sweep that
Yes.
sidewalk, wash the windows. Those two things alone, there will be people in the community that call that owner, if he or she lives in town, and ask, "What's going on in your building? I see you've cleaned the windows. Is there something coming?" So again, starts the conversations. Can you
Yes.
have clean windows? So easy to do. Just go be a
So
ninja.
and oh, be a ninja. That is sparking this memory that I have of I won't say the name of the city that I worked for at the time, but one of my coworkers at the city, she wanted to plant some flowers. She wanted the city to plant some flowers for Earth Day. And it was a big deal, like, well, what variety do we plant? And, it was a whole bureaucratic thing. And you know what? She came one night and planted the flowers herself.
I love her. I love her. That's a Lander when we were in Battle Mountain is the county seat. And a fella, Rich, owns this restaurant called The Owl. And we were having a meeting there talking about things we could do. And I asked him, like, "Rich, have you seen those two flower pots across from your building across the road?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, the county's getting new flower pots. I want you to take care of them." He goes, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Put the dirt in, plant some flowers in the wintertime, put a fake tree in there. They're yours. Take care of them." He's like, "Oh, I can do two. That's fine. I can do that." And by the time I left, 6 people had come on board to take care of 6 different flower pots
Oh,
because I asked. Sometimes it's that simple.
yeah, and we forget that it could be that simple. You think, "Oh,
Yeah,
no,
and
well,
the
there's a
the
form of
flowers
this."
don't have to match. I mean, none
Yeah.
of that has to happen.
All right. So, Deb, in your opinion, what's one small change that local governments could adopt to improve relationships with their community?
So I'm going to give you more than one. The first one is, do you have a non-voting high school student on your city council? If you don't, get one. You need to be hearing what the kids in your community want. More than just hearing, they need to be active in the community because when you take a student and have them do a project in your community, they
Mhm.
will forever remember that project. I hear 80-year-old men saying, "I built that bench over there and donated it to the city." It's simple things like that. How can you involve your youth? Figure out how to do that. And it starts with putting a junior on your city council. Make it non-voting, but make sure they're exposed to what it is to sit on a city council and the decisions that are made and get their input. So that's one thing.
Okay, I love
Um,
that.
and then the other thing is get out into the community more. Perhaps you need to have a town hall every month. Maybe you have to have Mondays with the mayor where they sit in a chair in an empty lot. Um, Figure out how to get out into the community and listen to what people want. It's not a time to have a bitch session. Probably should put a different word. It's not a time to have a gripe session, but it's
Okay.
a time to
Yeah.
hear about what it is that your community wants and how can you help them, and not necessarily financially. It's time to
Mm.
hear the stories too. Ask them to tell you good stories. What's
Ooh,
the
story
Lutheran
time.
church doing over there? I
Mhm.
see there's more kids in their daycare. Tell me about that. What's going on? And those are the little stories that are half a paragraph that can go into your newsletter.
Oh, there you go, the
The
content.
Lutheran church has 10 new students in daycare. I mean, that's it. Why
Yeah,
not share that stuff? Just
you're
get out in
100%.
front of your constituents. And please don't tell me you don't have time. Make time. Make
Mhm,
time. It's not that big a deal. You know that. Make time.
mhm. Okay, so are those your 2 small changes?
How Yes, 2 small changes for
Okay.
city officials. Um,
Okay. So I'm curious to hear how you think that technology will continue to play a role in community engagement.
so let's look at what social media is doing right now. It's bringing the stories to the forefront. So that allows you to collect the good news, the good stories. It makes that possible. But it also allows you to tell those stories as well. You can hit a share button and put it out there. You can copy and paste it into an email. That's all technology, and we forget that that's what that is. But I'm not young. And if you're listening to this, I'm 69 years old. I want people to take a look at artificial intelligence. Start slow. Go to I like perplexity.ai. It's one of my favorite AI sites to go. And you just put a question in. For example, how can I promote my new book to small towns? And it will answer your question with more than just one sentence. It'll give you a long string of answers that you're going to go verify the information is correct, because if it tells you post it on this website, make sure that website's real,
Yeah.
for example. And then bring your youth to help you with that. And when they go too fast for them, just tell them, slow down, slow down, slow down. I'm not with you. And youth is not always high school. It's a good place to start. But do you have a community college in your area? Do you have a college in your area? How can you get involved with the Young Professionals Association? Do you have one of those? Make sure you do, because they're using these tools. You have to find the people that are using the tools effectively and learn from them or hire them.
Yeah. Oh, I like that idea. Hire them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What emerging trends have you seen that you're particularly excited about?
So Becky's the expert on emerging trends. I kind of follow along with her thoughts. And given our political climate, things are up in the air, and I'm not sure what's emerging and what's not emerging right now. I'm just not able to answer this right now, to be honest with you. Um, I do think people are getting outside more. They're getting away from technology more. I see that. Um, we see, instead of having, just kill the committees, kill the meetings. You don't need them. If you want something done, go do it. If you want to talk about it with somebody, go talk about it in your living room or, in the community park if it's a nice day. Get out of the meeting rooms. That's a trend I'd like to see more of.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Who wants to sit in a windowless?
Well, in, City Hall meeting rooms carry a lot of weight, years of decisions that have been made
Oh,
in that
yeah.
space. And that create that kind of energy that's not a good feeling. Get out of there. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And the dynamic, the physical space creates a certain dynamic that's not always
Mhm.
great. I think for the last question I'll ask you before we get to your contact info is what words of advice would you share with our listeners who want to undertake something similar? Where should they start? What should they think about?
Well, that's a broad question. So, first of all, flush out your big idea. What do you want? What is it that you want? And write it down. Think about it. Don't take forever, but flush it out and make it a little bit more easy to understand. And then call your friends up, call your family up, start talking to people about it. Go online, go on Facebook and ask people, hey, I got this idea. What do you think of that? Or, hey, I want to do this. How would you do it? Really start talking to people. Gather your crowd. And your crowd will tell you if they like your idea or not. These are people that know you. They're pretty good at saying, well, that's a stupid thing. Or, hey, I like that idea. How can we do that? And then you go to the next one is find people that can help you do it. It's building your connections. And start taking small steps. Actually, posting on Facebook about it is a small step. You're already doing the things in the idea friendly method.
Okay.
And talk about it. Don't keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Get to work. Get to work.
So Deb, well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to mention that you would love to share with our listeners?
No, because I'm going to give you our website and where you can purchase my book as well. It's kind of weird being a Midwestern girl to promote something, right? We don't do that. We don't talk about the good stuff we do. So I'm trying to break that bad habit, right? If you need more resources, there's plenty of free resources that can help you at saveyour.town. And that's SAVEYOUR.TOWN. Please go there. Lots of tabs and fun and videos and all kinds of fun stuff. Check it out. And then you can buy the book at buildingpossibility.com/buy the book. BUY, the book. Okay. And I'm sure
Oh,
you can put these in the chat room or put them where people can see them.
yeah, I'll definitely put all these links in the show notes. And is save your dot town the best place where people could reach out to you if they have follow-up
Absolutely.
questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they want to email, it's deb@saveyour.town. Or they can go we've got a form on our site, a contact form too. If they forget my email, they can go right there too.
Okay.
I'd love
Great.
to hear from people. Reach out. I want to hear your stories. Okay.
Ah, okay. Yeah. All right. Everyone, reach out to Deb, share your stories,
Please.
but
And do you
share them
want to
with
know?
us too. For engaging cities, we would love to promote people's stories as well. So email both of us.
See?
Yeah,
That's how it works. Keep telling the good stories. Okay.
exactly. Well, Deb, thank you so much for chatting with us by our holiday trees and fireside places. Fireside. What's a fireside place? I don't know. A fireplace.
Well, you're sitting beside the fire.
Yeah.
So there you have it. And I don't know where I am, but it says Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So
Yeah.
pretty
Perfect.
colors to kind of match yours.
All right. So, Deb, thanks again for chatting with me today and love to follow up with you and see what projects you're working on in the future.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure, my honor to be here with you.
All right. As always, thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And thanks again to our generous sponsor, Conveo. Head on over to engagingcities.org, where you can find additional episodes and other helpful resources related to community engagement. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.